you're going to find out what holds back most barbers, and I mean 99% of barbers in today's industry. So if you feel stuck or stagnant as a barber and you know you're meant for more and you just don't know exactly how to get there, then this video is for you. I'm Pablo. I'm a professional barber and I help barbers make $10,000 plus a month from cutting hair. So stay with me now and I'll show you exactly what holds back 99% of barbers in today's industry. So with that being said, let's not waste any time and let's talk business. So number one is money management. You know, as a barber, you get paid every day. You get paid cash, Apple Pay, Zelle, Cash App, all forms of money. You get paid every day. It feels like you're making a lot more money than you actually do. It feels like you're a billionaire. You know, the dopamine rush is, it's unmatched. It's miraculous. But truth is, you're not making as much money as you actually think. And then you blow off the money and then the next day you get paid again, and it's a cycle. It's a trap, and you don't even realize it because you get paid every day. But don't get me wrong, I was once that barber. I'm fucking off my money. I'm buying a PS4, I'm buying an Apple Watch, I'm buying chains, clothes. I still do that, but I have structure now. And I'll show you exactly how I was able to go from a barber with no structure, no guidance, blowing off all my money because I was making great money as, my 2-3 years into cutting hair, to now being extremely disciplined, having structure, and being one of the best barbers in my city, is making over $10,000 plus a month. So I track exactly every single dollar that comes in, because remember, you're not just a barber, you're a business owner, you run a business. If you do something and money's coming in, you run a business. So I use money management or money manager. I'll put the app right here and I'll show you an example of exactly how I organize my money. Every dollar that comes in, I track it down. Every money that goes out, I track it. You need to know the money in versus the money out. And you need to be saving majority of your money that's coming in. I'll have a separate video of how I invest my money as a barber. This one thing alone will put you in the top 5% of barbers, because I'm telling you, most barbers think they're millionaires. Most barbers are making anywhere from $3 to $6K a month, and they're just blowing their money left, right. They're going out to eat. Their shots on them. It's great making fast money. It's because most people don't make the fast money. So the fact that us barbers are able to do it, we take advantage of it. But not knowing how to manage it is a lot of barbers, and 99% of barbers' greatest downfall. So use money management. Track every single haircut you're doing, how much money is coming in and exactly how much money is coming out. You having that exact number at the end of the month keeps you ahead of most barbers. Oh, number two is poor time management. You're not just a barber, you run a whole business. You need to know exactly how long you take on each client. Well, not exactly, but you need a rough estimate. If you know who you're cutting, say I have a weekly client, I know, okay, he gets a 5 on top taper, sometimes trim, that's about 20 to 30 minutes. I'll book him for 35 minutes. If another client comes in once a month, you gotta know it's at least, a 45-minute cut. What if he wants a trim on top, taper, eyebrows, beard, you might want a design. So what I do to make sure I run my business and keep my time as structured as possible is I text my clients, hey, what type of haircut are you gonna want? Are you gonna want a trim on top, scissor work, design? Let me know. Because once you get to know the exact details before the cut even begins, now you have leverage. Now you know exactly how much time you can book them for. And when you can organize each cut strategically, you can put gaps if you need to, gaps to clean up, gaps to edit content, gaps to go eat and refuel. Because as a barber, you need to keep your mind, body, all in peak performance from the time you start to the time you finish. This thing alone, including with the money management, is already gonna separate you from a regular barber to an elite barber, because it's really the small things that clients take into consideration. Because if you think you're a good barber, you probably are one of the best barbers in the city, whatever. But it's really your clients that give you the reputation, the people who sit in your chair. So you need to control anything you can, such as time management, money management, your habits, because ultimately clients are the ones that create the reputation for you. Us barbers, we can only do so much, but that's so much that we can do. Maximize it. Trust me, maximizing these things will put you in the top 10% of top 5% of barbers. Doing these things will put you in the top 5% of barbers without you even realizing, and clients will just come in and stay. You will be able to retain more clients, you get better tips, and lead you to making $10,000 plus a month just from cutting hair. Now the next thing is self-analysis. Analyze every day. Was this a good barber day? Why or why not? Did I make money? Did I get more tips today or yesterday? Why? Was my customer service better today? Were my haircuts better? Were my clippers well maintained? Were they zero gap? Were they not oiled? All of those things play a huge role into your barber business. Remember, you're more than a barber. You are a business owner. So take into consideration those small details. They're small, but they add up. Boom, boom, boom. And suddenly 10 small details is the reason you're now making $10,000 plus a month. For example, were you kind of dry to this client on one haircut and nicer to him on a different haircut? Now you're inconsistent. Your customer service must be consistent. Clients notice these little things. Clients decide whether, okay, I'm gonna tip him, he was good. The haircut was great, he didn't rush. He didn't take really long either, perfect balance. Really cool guy, dope experience, clippers in it, pull my hair, they didn't cut me. All of those things, like I said, play a huge role into you being a successful barber. So analyze yourself consistently, and not just as a barber, but in life, and it'll take you places you didn't think were imaginable. And last but not least is you cannot have average customer service. Your customers have to be your friends. You have to know them better than they know themselves. It's a business. If you see them consistently, even if they're not your friend, during that time they're in your chair, they're your friend. Play music that they like. Talk about topics that they like. It's an experience for them. It's a business. You just close a deal if you can retain a client for 10 plus years. That's how I've been able to retain 99% of my clientele, is just being their friend. Being a good person, being kind. Don't be overly nice, but be kind. Be a great business owner. Be a great barber. Be a great person to talk to. Sometimes as a barber, we have to be therapists, or if you're cutting someone that has a higher status than you, or if you're cutting someone that's more successful than you and they're giving you advice, don't be Mr. Know-it-all. Listen. I've taken great financial advice from clients that are making over $1 million a year, and just because I was able to listen, they respect that. These clients that are older, 30, 40, and I've retained them. They've helped me make money on the side, with stocks, investing. So you have to know your role as a barber. If you want to stop being a regular barber and reach your full potential, you need to know how to manage your money, manage your time, analyze yourself, and have great customer service. Doing these things alone will skyrocket your success as a barber, and you will go places you didn't think were possible. So with that being said, get to it.